So I'm Valentina, and I'm here today to talk to you about the marketing and growth challenges that gynecological health companies face today. I am the founder of a company called Daye. You may know us for one of our first products, which is the world's first and only pain-relieving tampon. But as you will find out from my presentation, we are doing a lot more. So I don't know how many of you knew about this, so I want to start my conversation with a show of hands. How many of you were aware of the fact that you can't use the words menopause, menstruation, breastfeeding, or vagina in any of your Instagram, Facebook, or Google ads? So show of hands, how many of you actually knew that that was the case? Okay, so not that many people, unsurprisingly, were aware of the fact that big tech is canceling gynecological health. So, what does it mean when big tech cancels gynecological health? You may be familiar with the gender gap in pay or with the gender gap in household chores. So you will have heard about the fact that women earn less than men, and we also do more of the household chores. But one of the other ways in which we're not getting to live up to our full potential is the healthcare gap. There's a massive lack of innovation within the world of medicine when it comes to addressing the needs of people with vaginas. And this gap is further advanced by the fact that even if there is a highly innovative product that somehow makes its way to market, you can't actually speak about it on the leading platforms that you would typically use to advertise your product. So quick overview, what is the gender healthcare gap? You, again, may not have heard of it existing, but turns out medical innovation actually routinely misunderstands and underserves the female physiology, women's bodies and minds. And this really isn't surprising if you look at how recently women were first allowed to participate in clinical trials. So it wasn't until 1993, so less than 30 years ago, when women were first allowed to participate in clinical research. All of the medications that were developed before then, medications like painkillers, antibiotics, antifungals, sleep medications, antidepressants, even the female Viagra, were never tested on the female physiology. So we have no idea how they impact a woman's body and mind. Here's an example of the many medical use cases that were never developed for the female physiology. And taking a look at the ADI, so the female Viagra, which is, I think, quite an outrageous case. Of course, it is pink, as you can see. They had to make it pink. When it was safety tested, it was tested only in 25 patients, which is quite a small sample size. I'm sure the people at Instacart wouldn't release any new feature with a sample size of 25 people. So that's another example of how modern medical innovation simply isn't meeting the needs of women. And surprisingly, 92% of the people that tested the female Viagra were men. And you can see this gender gap in medical research and innovation also in disease diagnosis. So across 700 different diseases, women get diagnosed significantly later than men. So it's 4 years later for cancer, 2.5 years later for diabetes. And one of the biggest examples of the gender gap in gynecological health is period pain. 90% of people suffer from period pain. 57% of people in the UK say that period pain is so bad that it impacts their ability to work. And according to the British Medical Journal, we lose 9 productive days each year to period pain. So that's 9 days of foregone income, educational, sports activities, etc. Yet, despite period pain being such a significant healthcare issue, we haven't had a localized targeted treatment developed until now. Period pain is still mostly treated with painkillers and with oral hormonal contraception, neither of which were designed for period pain. Another thing that you may not know about period pain, apart from the impact that it has on productivity, it actually can be as bad as having a heart attack. So UCL researchers in 2019 demonstrated that period pain can be as bad as having a heart attack. And despite, again, it being such a significant public health issue, we invest significantly more in erectile dysfunction than we do in period pain. So about 19% of men experience erectile dysfunction. And while that's a very serious and hard health condition to be going through, 90% of women suffer from period pain, yet there's so many solutions for erectile dysfunction and barely any for period pain. Another thing that you should know about marketing erectile dysfunction versus marketing period pain solutions, you can talk about erectile dysfunction all you want on Facebook and Google, and you can have all of the cacti that are in like different phases of being erect, but you can never talk about period pain. The solutions that we have to period pain right now are highly addictive. That's another thing you may not know. Mido, one of the most commonly used treatments for period pain, actually can lead to opioid addiction. So there is a really real and serious need for gynecological health innovation to exist and to have a platform to which it can promote itself. Here are some of the side effects the women currently suffer when taking painkillers to deal with their period pain. So 14% of women suffer clinically significant side effects when taking painkillers. And on the screen, you can see just some of them. At Daye, we are here to bridge the gender gap in medical research and innovation by creating products that are rooted in science, clinically validated, and genuinely effective. And here's how we do it. We started with a simple premise, which is that the menstrual tampon can serve for a lot more than to just soak up your menstrual fluid. So menstrual tampon can be what you use to administer pain relief directly to the vagina. It can be what you use to screen for vaginal health conditions, to treat vaginal health conditions such as vaginal infections. And it can also be used to treat menopause and perimenopause conditions, again, through the vaginal route of administration. And we started with a product that you're going to be able to find at the end of my presentation. There's some free samples in the hallway. But it's the world's first pain-relieving tampon, which was specifically designed for the female physiology. And you may be thinking, oh, Valentina, surely tampons at least were designed for the female physiology. But actually, no, tampons were not designed for the female physiology. Tampons were designed to plug bullet wounds in soldiers. And the nurses that were looking after the soldiers repurposed the tampons for their periods by adding strings. The other thing that we're doing at Daye, which you might be curious about, is we're using the tampon to replace the speculum. What is the speculum? So it's this horrendous metal device, which has had the same design since the year 300 before Christ, so since really long ago. And it's a metal tool that's inserted inside your vagina to keep it open so someone can obtain a sample from it so you can get tested for STIs or vaginal infection. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that using a tampon to replace a speculum makes the whole process a lot more comfortable. It increases the rates of regular uptake, which can decrease the prevalence of conditions like cervical cancer, untreated STIs, which lead to infertility, etc. So we're doing important and meaningful work. People like our products, and they should have the right to exist within the world of meta, but they don't. One of the biggest hurdles that we have in our way is misogyny. I coined this phrase. You're welcome. You can use it. It's a hashtag as well. So it's when big tech consistently blocks gynecological health innovation by marking it as adult content. So every time you talk about menstruation or breastfeeding or anything else to do with female health, you are automatically branded as porn. And this isn't something that Daye is suffering from alone. Recently, there was a New York Times investigation that showed over 60 different gynecological health companies were experiencing the exact same issue. So this is a huge percentage of the startup market, a big percentage of people that are doing something meaningful and innovative that cannot have access to the tools that everyone else is using to grow their businesses. So here's an example of one of our videos that were deeply offensive to Facebook. This is a GIF. I'm not sure if it will play, but I think it's not going to play, but I can tell you what happens. It's just a flushable wrapper of our tampon dissolving in a glass of water. That's it, and it's a GIF, so it does that on a loop. There's nothing else. And this was branded as political content by Facebook because you're not supposed to mention tampon wrappers because, God forbid, someone associates them with menstruation, which, as we all know, is dirty, disgusting, and does not belong on Facebook. This is a drawing of the female anatomy. Show of hands, how many of you are feeling aroused right now? No one? Just Facebook then? Okay. So this drawing of the female anatomy of the ovaries, the vaginal canal, the uterus was classified as adult content and placed in the same category as porn, drugs, and guns. So not only is this frustrating and it makes for like some good laughs and a good presentation, it has a massive impact on our ability to scale as a business and therefore our ability to attract further funding so we can continue growing, and therefore our ability to actually serve the people that so desperately need innovation within gynecological health. Because every time your account gets banned on Facebook or Instagram, not only do you have to set up your campaigns from scratch, you lose all of your learnings. So everything that you paid Meta so dearly for, you lose all of your targeting learnings, all of your learnings on who responds best to what type of ad. So you're forced to go back to square one on your targeting efforts. So I wanted to talk to you today about how we're diversifying our growth channels beyond big tech. We're facing the issue of censorship. I'm sure that a lot of you in the room today are just facing issues of increased costs of acquisition and increased costs per click. So here's some of the things that we're doing to fight the censorship. We have a blog called Vitos. Vitos is in your menstruation is your fifth vital sign, which has become a really key tool for us to acquire customers. It was actually the first product that we ever launched to market before we had any physical products or services to offer to our customer. We spent a year building up gynecological health content that was medically vetted and available for free. So instead of people having to, late at night Google questions about their vaginal discharge and end up on like random Reddit threads, they could go to a place like Vitos, where you can actually obtain medically vetted answers to the questions that you have. And it's become one of our leading drivers of growth. So we have about 200,000 unique monthly visitors that just go on the website because of having to Google pegging or vaginal discharge or any of the latest hot topics in gynecological health. And about 32% of our customers to date have come from organic search. So we really can't sing the praises enough of organic search. If you are currently building a brand, even before you have a product, even before you have growth, definitely invest in content. There's so many great journalists that write for Refinery29, Cosmo, The Guardian, etc., that you can reach out to, so they can create like short content for you, 500 to 800 words, that fits within your niche, is SEO optimized, so you can find customers that way. Another thing that we do, something that we like to say a lot, is we are an R&D company at heart, but we appreciate the power of a strong brand. So you will see that we have invested in a beautiful and differentiated unboxing experience. One of our hypotheses for the brand is that we want your Daye box to be like a little gift from yourself to yourself every month, so as to further destigmatize the concept of menstruation and further destigmatize the way that we think about periods and tampons. As a result of creating this, beautiful packaging aesthetic, we were able to grow on Instagram and TikTok organically. So we have about 100,000 followers across our different social media platforms. We have, actually, this is outdated, we have now 1,000 brand ambassadors through a platform called Brand Ambassador, which I also highly recommend you give a try if you haven't already. They help you manage what effectively for us has become a mini sales force. Nano influencers, micro influencers that you can brief so they know how to talk about your product, and they can help you spread the word organically about your product or service. And referrals and ambassador programs are something that has worked for Daye. We have a two-sided Airbnb-style referral program where both the referrer and the referee get money off their next box when they introduce someone new to the subscription. So 16% of our growth so far has come through that, and 5% approximately has come from our ambassadors, and this has increased as we have added more and more ambassadors to our network. If you're not on TikTok yet, you should have been on TikTok yesterday. Definitely, make an account. if you go on Daye's TikTok, you will see that I'm sometimes on Daye's TikTok, so you have to bite the bullet, and it's uncomfortable. You will not make any sense of the trends whatsoever from the start, so you will just be deeply confused because they don't make sense unless you spend 4 hours a day on TikTok. But it is a significant brand awareness channel, and even though it's awkward to get a handle on, I definitely recommend you go and make a TikTok account for your brand. And here's some other creative ways in which we've gotten the word about Daye out. So the first thing that you see is something called reverse graffiti. You can hire companies to create a stencil with your design or your messaging, and then instead of graffitiing it, they clean the streets of London with like high pressure water. So you have something that looks like a graffiti. It's free. You don't have to pay anyone anything apart from the company that makes you your stencil. And it's a great way to spread like discount codes or just your website and brand awareness more broadly. Another thing that we recommend you give a try is just mini educational booklets, creating niche content that is relevant for your audience, that's highly educational, really high utility. Get a collection of experts on your niche to provide meaningful content and then distribute that for free to your customer. In the case of Daye, we've created a Vagina Matters booklet, which helps girls and people in general learn about menstruation, contraception, different ways to remove your hair if you so want to. It's like the big sister guide to puberty that everyone wanted to have. Brand Ambassador is the platform that I mentioned about managing your micro-influencers and nano-influencers. And then I have this mock-up for an out-of-home campaign. We haven't yet had an out-of-home campaign because they are so expensive. But with the increased costs for Meta, I think a lot more brands will start thinking about out-of-home. And the last thing that I wanted to speak to you about, we're deep believers in the power of a differentiated brand at Daye. And if you've had any interaction with us as a company, you will see that that's one of the things that really stands out about who we are. And my advice is don't go to an agency for them to build your brand for you. Build your brand in-house if you can, because in order to build a truly differentiated brand, you need to do some hard and deep soul-searching work so you can put something out into the world that no one else has. So if you have the resources, definitely invest the time in building your brand in-house. Here's some of the values that the Daye brand stands for that we've come up with. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, and happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much for that. I think we never really think about it, how much of a hidden issue it is. So thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. I'm not sure where Lucy is, if we've got time. One question. So one question here is, how have you worked around voicing Daye's messaging with the taboo metaverse culture?
Okay, so the taboo metaverse culture means like the Facebook bans. Is that what this means?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's with the channels that I listed out. So having a referrals program, an ambassador program, investing a lot in SEO, having Brand Ambassador as a partner that enables us to have a mini sales force. PR is never really something that has worked for us, but I guess that works for other companies, so it's always worth mentioning. And creating novel and different like campaign-led content for TikTok has been helpful. So some of the campaigns that we did recently is we created a period pain machine simulator, which you can hook yourself up to if you're brave enough. And we went out into the streets of London and just hooked random men up to the period pain simulator so that they could share in the experience of period pain. And then they got a free Daye box as a treat that they could share.
And were they quite shocked?
Yes. So if you go on our TikTok, you can see the videos. There's some really funny faces there.
Valentina, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.